Warning: the following show is intended strictly for entertainment purposes. While Kyle is an actual therapist, the diagnoses within apply to fictional characters only. Don't self-diagnose on the internet, kids. We aren't WebMD.
Hey everybody, welcome to Geek Deconstructed, where we take a look at some of your favorite characters from pop culture and give them a real-world mental health diagnosis. My name's Kyle, I'm a mental health therapist in the state of Ohio, and today we're going to be taking a look at Deadpool. Now, Deadpool is a character named Wade Wilson. Now, Wade has a troubled childhood when he grows up in the state of Ohio and decides to become a mercenary as he travels around. While traveling, Wade encounters other people, changes his name a few times, and really just kind of goes everywhere. Kind of becomes a little bit crazy here and there, and eventually he finds out he has inoperable brain cancer. At that point, he's introduced to the Weapon X program. The point is to give him Wolverine's healing powers. During that phase, he is basically enslaved and escapes and becomes a mercenary all over again. Now, when it comes to Deadpool, there are a couple of ways we can go, and as with many of my characters, I like to start with personality. So with Deadpool, I'm going to take a look at schizotypal personality disorder. Now, schizotypal personality disorder is defined as a pervasive pattern of social and interpersonal deficits marked by acute discomfort with and reduced capacity for close relationships, as well as by cognitive and perceptual distortions and eccentricities of behavior, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by at least 5 symptoms. Now, we can kind of see, at least with this description, Deadpool does meet because he has very eccentric behavior, very out there behavior. He meets criteria 1, which is ideas of reference, excluding delusions of reference. We can kind of see that because these ideas of reference are ones in which Deadpool kind of thinks that everything refers back to him. And Deadpool is a character who very much believes that the world is there for his amusement. He also meets criteria 2, odd beliefs or magical thinking that influences behavior and is inconsistent with subcultural norms. So, I can see Lucas behind the camera now smiling and nodding, and he knows the character much better than I do, and Deadpool very much has a lot of odd beliefs and magical thinking. He's kind of all over the place. It's Mexican food and what else?
Dinosaurs and girls with chainsaws.
And dinosaurs and girls with chainsaws. So, you know, he's also very fond of breaking the fourth wall. It's just kind of all over the place. He meets criteria 4, odd thinking and speech. Again, breaking the fourth wall, talking about girls and chainsaws, whatever he wants to do, he's just kind of all over the place and a little bit nuts, to be honest. The clinical term is nut bar. Deadpool also meets criteria 7, which is behavior or appearance that is odd, eccentric, or peculiar. Anybody who's familiar with Deadpool knows that he is, again, like I said, all over the place. Very odd behavior, even odd appearance to his manner of speaking when he dresses up in, different versions of his own costume. And finally, Deadpool meets criteria 8, which is a lack of close friends or confidants other than first-degree relatives. We can see this because Deadpool often declares himself members of the Avengers and the X-Men without actually ever becoming members of the Avengers or the X-Men. He kind of tries to force his way into these relationships, but never actually has these close relationships for real. Now, where we run into a problem is criteria B. That is, it does not occur exclusively during the course of schizophrenia, a bipolar disorder, or depressive disorder with psychotic features. Now, the key word here is does not occur within schizophrenia, and I believe, based on the criteria, that Deadpool fits schizophrenia quite well. Now, when it comes to schizophrenia, Deadpool needs to meet at least 2 criteria of a possible 5. He meets criteria A1, which is delusions. That's kind of the over-the-top thoughts that don't actually relate back to reality. We talked about this a little bit already with Deadpool being very much self-referential. He also meets criteria 2, which is hallucinations. Now, for the purpose of this, I'm going to assume that Deadpool is a real person in this world, therefore breaking the fourth wall, assuming he's talking to an audience and talking to the voice inside of his head, very hallucinatory, and odds are he probably sees some stuff too. Finally, Deadpool meets criteria A4, which is grossly disorganized or catatonic behavior. Now, again, we talked about his behavior already. It's kind of all over the place, very disorganized. He will go from wanting to kill somebody one moment to hugging them the next moment. He's all over the place, behavior is crazy, not necessarily catatonic, but that's an or statement, so we definitely fit within the disorganized behavior section there. So that is criteria A for schizophrenia. Criteria B is for a significant portion of the time since the onset of the disturbance, level of functioning in one or more major areas such as work, interpersonal relations, or self-care is markedly below the level achieved prior to the onset. Now we can kind of see this because before Deadpool really kind of switches to these behaviors, he's much better at taking care of himself and other people. He is actually forming relationships. He's got a significant other. He has friends. After all of these symptoms kind of start taking place, he ceases to have those. He no longer has the interpersonal relationships that he once had. So criteria C is continuous signs that the disturbance persists for at least 6 months. This 6-month period must include at least 1 month of symptoms, or less if successfully treated. So again, we had to have this all lasting for at least 6 months, and based purely on the comics, Deadpool's been around for years in the comics, therefore his symptoms would have lasted much longer than 6 months. Criteria D is that schizoaffective disorder and depressive or bipolar disorder with psychotic features have been ruled out because either no major depressive or manic episodes have occurred during active phase symptoms, or 2, if mood episodes have occurred during the active phase symptoms, they have been present for a minority of the total duration of the active and residual periods of the illness. So while Deadpool does show evidence of manic episodes, that being awake for long periods of time, going kind of all over the place, crazy behavior, he does not necessarily meet depressive symptoms anywhere in his history or in the comic books. Criteria E is that the disturbance is not attributable to the psychological effects of a substance. Deadpool doesn't have any evidence of actually using any kind of substance apart from the chemicals used to transform him to who he is, and therefore he does not have any kind of substance use that would cover these criteria. Finally, criteria F is if there's a history of autism spectrum disorder or communication disorder of childhood onset. An additional diagnosis of schizophrenia is made only if prominent delusions or hallucinations, in addition to other required symptoms of schizophrenia, are also present for at least 1 month. Now we can kind of ignore this one because Deadpool does not necessarily fit criteria for any kind of autism spectrum disorder, and therefore he fits very well into the schizophrenia diagnosis. Now when it comes to schizophrenia, we do have to do a specification. And in this case, Deadpool is going to fit the first episode currently an acute episode. This basically means that this is an ongoing episode and this is the first episode. Now since this first episode has lasted all of Deadpool's career as Deadpool, then it's still the first episode and it's still acute, still going on right now. So big picture for Deadpool, we are looking at schizophrenia, mainly because of his hallucinations, delusions, and all those kind of crazy behaviors that really fit in with schizophrenia. Now make sure you join us next week. We will have another episode next week, probably looking at Tom Riddle. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and leave another comment below. Tell me who I should be doing next. Thanks everybody. Bye.